Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. In an ultra-competitive industry, the conversion rate of landing pages is fundamental to success. Many sites are still making mistakes which are destroying their conversion rates. That means they're throwing away customers and wasting advertising spend. I'm Michaela McNamara, editor of CAP, and today we have conversion expert Dave Gowans, who's looking at 10 of the biggest mistakes that gaming companies are making on their sites. He's here to present simple, practical solutions that you can use to boost your conversion rates. He'll be covering how these conversion rates of landing pages are fundamental to success, the mistakes that iGaming affiliates are making that ruin their rates, simple solutions they can do to boost them, and real-world case studies illustrating what's possible. If you have any questions about any of the content presented today, as always, we will be providing an extended Q&A session during the last 20 minutes of the webinar. You're welcome to submit your questions throughout the presentation using the GoToWebinar question panel on your right. But before we get started, I'd like to thank today's webinar sponsor, the London Affiliate Conference, or LAC, where Dave will be also presenting in February. LAC was a huge success last year with over 3,000 people in attendance, biggest LAC ever. The good news is that they are back for the 8th annual conference in February for 4 days of conferences, exhibitions, and networking events. Hopefully the attendance will go over the 3,200 mark this year. The IGB Affiliate Awards will also be taking place during LAC, so remember to vote. Also at LAC, they have the Financial Partners Expo, which will be taking place. It's a one-day event on February 6th and is the largest dedicated expo for affiliates, and brokers will be there to introduce you to the retail finance sector. So put the dates in your diary and attend February 6th through 9th for one of the most comprehensive and well-respected affiliate events of the year. Also be sure to catch Dave's presentation there. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome and introduce our guest speaker, Dave Gowans. Dave is the senior consultant at Conversion Factory based in the UK. He has managed optimization campaigns for blue chip companies across Europe, including household names in telecoms, retail, gaming, and travel. He has managed online search and recommendation projects in the gaming and television industries and has a passion for improving the online experience and maximizing conversions. You can find Dave's contact information at the end of the presentation if you'd like to get in touch with him. Dave, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the webinar.
It's a pleasure to be joining.
Awesome. I will pass everything off to you. You're the expert here.
That's great. Thanks a lot, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be speaking to you all, and hopefully I'll be able to share some interesting information for you. So just to start off, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I do. So I work for an agency called Conversion Factory. We are based in London, and we have clients right from the smallest startups right up to $5 billion web giants. And our approach is really to do data-driven conversion optimization. So everything we do is based on trying to understand the reasons that people don't convert on a website. So we'll use quantitative and qualitative methods to sort of get information from people and get the feedback. And once we understand what those barriers are, we can then put simple solutions into practice that bring big results. So typically our clients will see double-digit increases within the first 3 months of working with us. So what I want to talk to you about today is sort of 10 of the big mistakes that the gaming companies and other companies across the web are regularly making, and hopefully share with you 10 solutions to those. So 10 ways that you can go about overcoming the problems and really increase your conversion rate. And hopefully these are practical things that you can use today and go straight on your site and start using them. So I'll start off by just going through to the first point. So this is one of the biggest problems that we see with sites nowadays, and to be honest, it happens in every industry. So it's not just gaming where this is a problem. And that's where the headline on the ads for pay-per-click are massively different to what you'll actually see when you go to the page. So best way to think about this is to put yourself in the mind of the user, and that's typically a good way to start. So let's say I've been looking for poker online, perfectly reasonable, and this is one of the pay-per-click ads I've seen on Google. It's quite a compelling headline. I deposit £10 and get £35 free. You know, it's a standard sort of deal, but but it sounds like the sort of thing that I'm interested in. So if I then click through to that page, I get to see something like this. Again, it's a decent landing page. We've got all the key points on there. But let's just look back at the advert down here at the bottom that I originally clicked on. So I went to a page where I expected that if I deposited £10, I'd get £35 free. If we look at the page I've actually landed on, it says deposit £10 and get £10 free and a 250% bonus. Now, what you've got to remember is that typically a user will be on your site for maybe 3 to 5 seconds before they're willing to leave. The back button is really easy to find, and people aren't willing to wait around and investigate your site and find what they're looking for. If you've promised them a £35 free bonus with their deposit, then that's what they should see when they come onto the page. If I come on here, even if when I do the maths that actually works out as a £35 free bet, I've got to do that thinking, and that's what many users won't do. So what it's key to do is make sure that that headline, preferably the main headline, if not some sort of subheading, very clearly says the same thing that your PPC ad says. And although that sounds like a straightforward thing to do, what you need to remember is you're going to be changing these ads a lot. Hopefully you're going to be optimizing them and finding the best ones. So if you do find you're changing your ads, then make sure that you do match them in your landing page headlines. So the second issue that a lot of sites do make is it's not making it clear that you've claimed the offer. So we all know that in gaming and sports betting that the free bets and the free offers and the bonuses are a very big part of the deal. People are very switched on. They know that they're looking for big bonuses. It's generally what people are going to be looking for, and a lot of people will make their decisions based on those. But the problem is, due to whether they're affiliate sites or whether the landing page isn't connected very well to the registration funnel, you get the problem that you click through and then you're not sure that you're actually getting the bet. So here I'm on TitanBet. I expect to get my £25 free if I sign up, and I click through on the button. And I see a form like this, which, to be honest, is a pretty good registration form as far as these things go. And that's something I'll be touching on later. But the problem is, I've got no idea whether I've actually redeemed that £25. Am I going to qualify for it? If it was a special deal, am I going to get it applied to my account? Should I see it instantly? What do I need to do? There's no information here to say that I've actually got the offer that I was signing up for. And that can cause a big problem, because if someone's going in there and expecting their free bet or their free spin or their bonus, then they may just drop out of the registration process because they haven't seen that they're definitely getting that, and they might be concerned that they won't. Especially when you get things like bonus codes offered on the form. Do you need to put information in there to get your bonus? It's just not clear. So there's a couple of ways you can get around this, and I appreciate that for many people, actually changing the registration form is not going to be a realistic prospect. But one technique that's used quite effectively is done by Ladbrokes here in the UK. So they've got a nice landing page, very simple. I get a £50 free bet. And when I click through, I get this registration form. So ignoring some of the other problems with the form, you can see up the top there, I've got a very simple thing. Claim up to £25 in free bets. Simply open an account using promo code F25. And that's really nice, because for the user, they know there's that consistency there. They know that that offer was given to them on the landing page, and now they know how to complete it. And this is something you can do if you can frame the site that you're linking to, or load your registration form in an iframe or something like that. It's a great way that you can make sure that people know they're getting the deal. And even if it doesn't involve putting in a promo code, put something to confirm it. You've got your special deal. It will be applied to your account when you sign up. It's very, very simple to do, and very effective, because suddenly it gives people that confidence that they're getting the deal that they really want. Now, if we look at the example here from Betfair, they're going one step further, and this is a very nice example, because you can see on the right-hand side, you're getting a free £50 bet, and they're actually encouraging you to continue. There's 2 steps to go. They're explaining what you'll have to do in order to qualify for that. And also, if you look down at the promo code area, they've already pre-filled the one that will get you the bet, and put a tick next to it. So again, they've made it very clear that you're qualifying for what you're looking for, and also they've made it very clear to you what else you're going to need to do to claim that offer. So my advice to you would be, whenever you're giving the users an offer, make sure they know they're getting it, and make sure you confirm to them everything they need to do. You might think it's a good idea to try and get people to not sign up for the offer, save you a bit of money if you don't have to give £50 out. But at the end of the day, they're very switched on with this, and if they're not convinced that they're going to get it, they'll probably go to a competitor that makes it clearer. So our third one returns to one of the classic ideas of marketing, and that's the idea of show, don't tell. So the idea that it's better when you're trying to sell something to give people a good example rather than trying to explain something. And a great example of how this is being done badly is if we look at some of the gaming sites. So on this example here, we've got me searching for best odds. I want to find the best odds. So I go through to one of these three sites, and it's betway.com. And as we can see on there, yes, the first checkmark there, they offer the best odds in over 30,000 markets. But that's not necessarily really helping me much. If you think about this as a user again, what does that mean? How do I know I'm really getting the best odds? There's no comparison there. There's no details of what they mean by that. It's just telling me. And telling isn't very effective. Let's have a look at an example of someone who's trying a different approach. So this is Sky Bet, again, here in the UK. So what they've done is they've tried to put a guarantee on it. And guarantees are very effective in a lot of areas of business, because by giving a guarantee, it takes away the risk for people. The problem is they're still trying to tell us about their best odds. Here it says, I've got the best odds guaranteed on UK horse racing. If you click that, you don't get any more information. It's still up to people to believe what Sky Bet are telling me. And they could be a site that I've never heard of before, or I'm not used to using. So how would you do this right? Well, let's take a look at this example from Bet365. Same search, click through on the PPC ad. Now what you're seeing here is they've instantly given me the odds. Now, this is big debate anyway in sports betting and gaming as to whether you should show people odds or whether you should show them a landing page. But in this case, we knew I was looking for the best odds. And what better way for me to know if I'm getting them than to see the numbers themselves? Now, you could add more to this page. You could add guarantees. You could add sort of information tooltips that pop out to say, this is better odds than you'd get on X amount of sites. But the point is here, they're taking the example and they're giving it to us. Rather than trying to explain to me that it's the best odds, they're showing me the best odds. It's simple, it's compelling, and it's going to come across as a very strong message to the user. So wherever possible, try and make it obvious. Try and show people what you do rather than trying to explain it to them. Moving on to our next issue, and this is, again, returning to the problem of bonuses. Now, bonus structures have become more and more complex as the users have become, I suppose, better at exploiting them. Throughout the years, we've had to put more and more restrictions on bonuses because people will register with lots of sites and take the bonuses. But that's making it harder and harder for the average user. So here's an example. This is Betfair again, and they've made this pretty clear on their landing page. I'm going to get a £400 welcome bonus if I join now. That's a 400% bonus, which may mean something to a user who knows a little bit about this thing. It may be a strange term to someone who's never done betting before, but it really looks quite clear. But there's no information here about how I qualify for that bonus. What I need to do. Is it just free money that I'll get in my account? So any user who's not really sure about this will probably go and have a look at the extra information that's provided. In this case, it's a terms and conditions link. So if we look at that, we get this information, which I think you can all agree is quite confusing for any user. Not only have I got a lot of information there, a big table of currencies and multiples for if I'm in another country. But then when you actually look at the details of the bonus, it starts to get quite confusing. I'll need to wager my amount 40 times, within seven days before you can withdraw your winnings. Then goes on with an example that if I buy in for £100, I'll be awarded a £400 bonus, which is 400%. I'll then have £400, which I have to wager 40 times, which is £16,000. So although you may have to put restrictions like this on your bonus structure, this suddenly makes it very difficult for the user. First of all, this is a lot of numbers for people to take in. It's a lot of confusing figures and people aren't really sure what they'll get. And secondly, you've got the problem that suddenly you've gone from a £400 free bonus to having to wager £16,000 within a week to get your bonus. That's a big break between the two things that people have originally been shown. So how can we overcome that? Obviously, we can't simplify our bonuses down, or we can in some cases, but then people are going to take advantage of them. So let's have a look at Ladbrokes that we've looked at a couple of times before. And actually, they've made this as easy as hopefully you can do. Now, the top example is from their sports betting. Now, obviously, with sports betting, the bonuses can be a lot more simple. They've made it very clear on the page what you do. You sign up with the promo code, you place a bet with a minimum, £5, but they've explained that in a friendly way. And then you get up to £50 in a match-free bet. It's very simple, it's very clear. I know what I need to do. Let's look at their casino, because this is a bit more of a complex approach, but again, they've tried to do it in the most simple way possible. Register today, deposit and get up to £500 free, and then you play. When you open up the terms and conditions, rather than giving you that huge wall of text with loads of numbers, it's really just giving you a few simple pieces. You need to deposit a minimum of £10 and turn over the bonus 30 times. It's a lot more straightforward, and although the terms of this offer aren't enormously different to the one we were looking at before, it just makes it a lot clearer to the user. Users are pretty switched on, they know what they're talking about, so try to be as upfront with your bonus structure as possible. As we were saying before about how they would claim their bonus, make it clear before they start what they're going to need to do. An unsatisfied customer who goes in thinking they're going to get a £500 bonus and never actually gets it are probably going to leave. Someone who can take full advantage is going to be a satisfied customer, and they know what they're signing up for, so they're much more likely to convert. Another example of a mistake that many sites make is going for an approach of talking about features rather than benefits. Now, again, this is, I suppose, classic marketing and goes back many years, but it's a mistake that people are still making today. So this is an example from Paddy Power, a large bookmaker, and what they've done is they've tried to show you reasons to bet with them. That's a perfectly reasonable approach. That's they're trying to sell their unique selling points, and definitely something that I would recommend that people do, especially in such in a market where there's very little differentiation between a lot of the providers. So let's have a look at what they did. So they had this information on the page, reasons to bet with Paddy. But when we look down these, we realize all they're really doing is selling us features, money back specials, betting in running, enhanced odds, live streaming, mobile betting. They're all reasons why you might choose to bet with Paddy, but they're not necessarily compelling to the users. When a user comes in and they want to buy something, they really want to look what the benefit is for them. There's two core reasons why someone will buy your product. If it does something that brings them a benefit, or if it does something that takes away something that's difficult or painful for them. Now, in the case of gaming and betting, it's quite likely that the main reason is going to be to have fun or to win money or to bet on the particular sports you're interested in. So how can we tie into those? How can we tie into those benefits and really sell this in a better way? Well, let's take a look at these same reasons, but let's reframe them as benefits, reasons why people may actually want to bet. Here's an example where we've just rewritten them. So take a look at this top one. Get your money back if you lose. It's a very clear benefit to the user. It's better than a money back special. And it's saying exactly the same thing, but the user can instantly see why they'd want to do that. Second one, make money during the race by betting in running. Again, we're focusing on the benefit there. The feature is that we can do betting in running, but that means we can make money during the race. We can win more with enhanced odds. We can watch the race with live streaming. All of these things, although they sound relatively obvious, by spinning them this way, it means that the user who comes on quickly can make that connection. When they look at your site for 5 minutes, they might not realize that a money back special means that they can get their money back if they lose. But by saying that outright, you're saying the same information, but pitching it in a way which is far more useful to them. One of the big problems that a lot of sites have is around the call to action. And to be honest, call to actions is an area where I get the majority of my questions and talk with a lot of people for over many years. It's a very divisive topic. But today I'm not going to talk about making them obvious or what color or size they should be. I want to talk about them matching the user's goal. So if we go back to what we were talking about earlier and benefits, if we think about what someone wants to do when they come onto your site, if they go onto the Ladbrokes Casino, what do they want to do? Well, there's probably 2 or 3 things. They want to win money, they want to play games, or maybe they want to claim your bonus. They probably don't want to register. I don't think I've ever met a user who has decided to go onto a site to register. It's a very strange thing to be doing. Yet the one thing that this site asks you to do is to register. It's a complete break between what you're going to do and what the user actually wants to do. So you can make your call to action match with the goal of the user. So in this example here, same company, different landing page. Bet on football up to £50 free bet. Bet now is the call to action. And this is very good from the point of view that that's what the user wants to do. They've dropped onto the site, they want to bet now. The problem with this is you get a bit of a usability issue when you click to the next step. We've already looked at this. You click on that button and you get the scary registration form. So that's instantly a problem for the user. They came onto the site, they want to bet, they click to bet, and then they got a registration form. So it's brought that confusion into their mind. And this is the challenge with the calls to action. What you really want to do is make them as relevant enough to the user, but also communicate what's going to happen when you click on them. So how do you do that? Well, here's an example from supercasino.com, offering a welcome bonus here. And what do people want to do? They want to play the games. What do they actually do at the next step? They have to fill in a registration form. They have to join the site. So using a button like Join Now to Play is very effective. It's got the user's goal in it, but it's also got the next step, so they're not surprised when they get a sign-up form. You can do that with all sorts of things. So if your user wants to claim the bonus, make your button register and claim. What you need to really do is think about, for every call to action, match it up to what the user wants to do and match it up to what will actually happen when you click the button. And if you can convey the 2 of them in button copy, and it can be quite long like this, then you've reached the success. Going too far either way is going to cause a problem for users. So the next step is around the registration form. And I talked about using the Bet Now button on this site and what that shows you. And as with many of these sites, the first thing it shows you is a registration form. And I picked out this one because this is one of my favorite bad registration forms. I've been on Exciting page. It showed the footballer kicking a goal. It's the excitement that I'm about to win some money on this football match. And then I've gone onto a form which has got tiny text and a grey background and looks more like a tax return than anything else. So how do you overcome this sort of problem? Why are sites like this showing such complicated, horrible registration forms when they've got really quite attractive landing pages? Well, some people would make the argument that that the problem here is that there's a lot of regulatory requirements that people are going to have to provide a lot of specific details, but that's never meant that you can't create interesting forms. And there's all sorts of examples of sites that make these things very easy, perhaps when switching utility providers or online banking and things like that can actually be quite attractive and not that difficult to use. But the same approach doesn't seem to be applied to a lot of these sites. This is a lovely example, actually, of how you can overcome the problem of a complex registration process and really cut it down to a small number of fields. Now, this is actually the landing page. This isn't the registration page. So the first technique that's been used here is the idea of pulling some of those forms out of the registration form and putting it on the page. Again, if we think about our users, they're not stupid. They know that they're probably going to need to fill out some sort of registration information, in this case, to place their £25 free bet. So by putting some simple fields on the page, we make it quite accessible to them. It's quite reasonable to expect that if you fill out this information and click bet now, you might actually get to make your bet. None of that information is too hard. You know your name, you know your surname, your email, and your mobile number. Now, admittedly, some of those you might be unwilling to provide, and that's another area that this form could be improved. But it does make it very, very simple. And then if we look at what the next step is, well, all it does is send you a code to your phone. You need to then enter that online, and then you're into the site. So what it's done here is it's taken a very big, complicated registration process and actually cut that down to the absolute minimum data. Now, it might actually need more information after this in order for you to start placing bets, credit card information, information about security purposes. But the main thing to note here is that you've put a lot of effort in already. I've never seen a complicated registration form, but already I've entered some basic details, confirmed my mobile phone number, and put a lot of investment into the process. So really, the more information you can bring right forward in that form and to offer to people as early on as possible, the easier it makes it, because at the end of the day, once you're invested into one of these processes, you'll probably carry on to the end. So my recommendation to you is if you can pull any of that recommendation to any of that registration form to the front, make it up front with the user, then it gives you a great opportunity to bring them into the process without hitting them with a big, scary form. Sticking with horrible, scary forms, and this is the Bet365 example. It looks nearly as bad as the Ladbrokes one, just has slightly less tiny text on the page. But this is another problem, and again, it's very much appreciated that this might not be within the control of individual affiliates, but again, it's things that apply to any sorts of forms that you've got on your site. But many sites will ask for unnecessary and very complex details. So if we have a look here, the page is actually asking for a big chunk of information here, and if you actually run through it, a lot of this is very unnecessary. We're obviously going to need to ask for someone's email address. We're then asking them to confirm it. Now, in the general experience, a lot of people will copy and paste, or a lot of people will use their browser to fill this in for them. So it's not really gaining you much to put this information, to ask for that again. Contact number, that's fair enough. You know, people might accept they need to provide that, although it generally will help if you can explain what you need it for. People are always unwilling to give their phone number, so explaining that maybe you'll use it to notify them when their balance is low, or to contact them if there's a problem. It can be quite effective to convince people to enter this information. Next, we're asking them for language, time zone, and how they want their odds displayed. Now, in general, those aren't things that you necessarily need to start placing bets. It's great things to have in your account settings, but it's not really something that you can do up front. Someone can register without filling in this information, and you should give them the opportunity to do so. Underneath that, we've got username. Well, in all honesty, why don't we use the email address for the username? It's something that most sites do nowadays, and it's one less thing to remember. Password and confirm password, I will let them get away with that. That's suitable things to be asking. But when they're then asking for 4-digit security numbers, there's again the opportunity here. Can you automate anything for the user? It is relatively easy to generate a username, a password, and a security number, and email them out to people. And if you can do that, then it's giving you a huge benefit, because the people aren't having to think about this. If we go back to the previous example where you just filled in those 4 fields, you could send all the security details out to the person. You have their phone number, you have their email address, send those details out, and then they can register without having to worry about thinking up all this information. It's just all about making the process as easy as possible for the user. There's an example here from 21 Casino, which shows just how simple you can make it. I wouldn't argue that this is an attractive registration form, but if you look at how simple it is, there's very little unnecessary information there. And what they've really tried to do is make this look as simple and as easy for people as possible. And if you can't reduce the number of fields to a level that's good, see if you can make it seem as painless as possible, because that's sort of another approach to doing that. Now, this is again a problem that happens for a huge majority of sites, and it is not just restricted to gaming, but it sort of relates back to what I was saying at the beginning around matching up your PPC ad. But this is an even bigger problem. So I actually dropped onto this site to have a look at it, and I was putting this presentation together before Christmas, and I was quite surprised when I had a look at it afterwards, because I couldn't actually remember what this site was about. And I think this is the big problem here. You come onto this site, and all I can see there is a man probably playing some sort of computer game. He's got a skateboarder behind him, and something about a £6,000 winter free roll, which, as far as I know, could be some sort of skateboarding contest. If I actually close that banner, it doesn't really get much better. I can see now this is definitely a site to do with skateboarding. I can get something free, £12, with no deposit. That's brilliant. But the problem is, this is for 888poker.com. There's nothing on that site that shows me this is a poker site. And it's great if you recognize the brand, but they've made it so small in the corner there that I'm not going to find that out. So the problem being that, again, it comes back to this issue that you've got 3 to 5 seconds to convince a user that they're in the right place, that they're going to get what they want. And at this point, you just really don't know. As far as I'm aware, this is some sort of skateboarding computer game. So let's take a look at how other people do this. PokerStars have got quite an effective approach here. And this is, I guess, the typical landing page for a lot of poker sites. You've got an attractive lady on the page who's holding some cards to show this is poker, you're in the right place. And this works quite well. We've got a big logo up there on the left. We've got the cards. There's mention of poker all over the page. It makes it very clear to the user when they've landed there that this is what they're going to do. This is a poker site. They're going to get a free £20, and that they need to download. Very straightforward, very easy to see. Have a look at this example from Titan Poker, because I think this is quite nice to illustrate both this point and the one I was talking about earlier, where you're showing rather than telling people. What people are coming here to do is to play online poker. And what we're showing them here is exactly what that online poker is going to look like. There's no confusion here. To be honest, when I'm playing poker online, I'm probably not going to see the attractive lady holding the cards. I'm very unlikely to see the person on the skateboard. What I am likely to see is the interface of the software that I'm going to download. It might not be quite as exciting as some of those other images, but it certainly does show you exactly what you're going to get. And it's something that's probably worth considering. In the same way that Bet365 showed their odds, you can show exactly what the user is going to get by using the appropriate imagery and the appropriate text to back that up. So it's certainly something worth considering doing when you're designing your landing pages. Now, this is probably one of my biggest frustrations, and happens on a lot of casino sites, a lot of poker sites. And that's when it comes down to the issue of multiple calls to action. Now, for various technical and gaming reasons, most of the casino sites are offering either a downloadable app or the ability to play instantly online. This is fine for, again, experienced users. They know which one they want. But this is a classic problem that people are trying to answer to provide the right service to every single one of their users in the same way. The owners of these sites have offered the two options. They've offered downloads, which is how presumably they prefer this to be done, but they're also offering instant play. The thing is that users don't really know which one they want, and making choices is difficult. If you give someone a site with just one thing to do on it, they don't have to think about it. If you give them two options, and in the example on the bottom left-hand side here, two options that are offered in almost identical ways, suddenly they're thinking, do I want a free download or do I want to instant play? On the 10 best poker sites here, I can instant play or I can register, which makes it very obvious which one I probably want to do is the instant play. But the problem is that you've really got to, if you do have two options, you've got to make it clear to people which one they need to choose. And there's really sort of three approaches you can take to this. One is that you can give them all the information they need and help them to make up their mind, which is a suitable approach, but doesn't always isn't always as easy as you'd hope, because users have then got to think. You can take the approach here where you're offering one as your primary and then trying to hide away the second option. Although, to be honest, this is still quite difficult, because if you actually read the text here, it sounds more compelling than doing a download. Or you can take the third option, which is the one that PokerStars takes, which is to dump the instant winner completely. People can probably go on there and find the instant play options if they want to, but at the end of the day, offering them one call to action is a very simple approach. And the problem is that people are quite concerned, because if you take away one of the options, they're concerned as site operators that you'll alienate a lot of visitors. But I strongly suggest that you would test this sort of thing, because time and time again, we find that removing the difficulty of making the decision actually gives you a bigger conversion rate increase than the loss you get from alienating some of the users who wanted the other option. They'll either choose the default option or they may go elsewhere. But taking away that choice can give you really, really big gains. So just to recap the 10 rules I've been sharing throughout this presentation, make sure that your headline matches your ad. It's very important to make sure that people know what they're getting and make sure that they're familiar with your site as soon as they arrive there. You need to make sure the user knows that they're getting their offer, because it's a big question for them. If they are on the site and they don't know they're getting the offer, they may go elsewhere to your competitors. So make it absolutely clear. Make sure you show people what they're getting. Don't try and explain it. It's never as compelling. Go ahead and give them an example and show them exactly what they want. Make your bonus structures and steps as clear as possible. Be upfront with the users. Try and simplify the bonus structure if you can. If not, make it very clear in the terms and conditions. Or even better, give them a step-by-step guide to claim the bonus. Show them that you're working with them to get them a benefit, rather than making it unclear. Make sure you're offering benefits rather than features. It's classic marketing, but people don't buy features. They want to know what benefits in it for them. Make sure your call to action matches what the user wants to do, but also that it makes sense usability-wise. Make sure that they can see where they're going, but they know what they're going to do next as well. Make sure your registration forms are as simple as possible. If you've got the ability to, take out fields and only ask for details which are absolutely necessary. Make sure that the purpose of the page is clear. If you're not Spotify, you don't want to have abstract images. Make it very, very clear within 3 to 5 seconds why the user is there. And the 10th one is to present a single call to action. Don't confuse users with options and ask them to make decisions. Just show them one single thing that they need to do on your site. Now, I hope that these 10 simple rules are going to be of help to you. They are hopefully things that you can do today or hopefully in the next few weeks. But we've also are publishing a 5-part ebook talking about the concepts that you can use to win in highly competitive markets, which focuses on the online sports betting industry. So if you are interested in receiving a copy of this, then just send over an email to hello@conversionfactory.com, and we'll let you know when it's published and how to download it. But hopefully that's been useful to you, and I'll hand now back to Michaela, who should have some questions.
I sure do. Thank you so much for that, Dave. That was really, really insightful, and I like when there are actual, real tips that our audience can take away. So I had some questions come in, and hopefully we'll have some more come in during our Q&A. So I hope I am explaining this correctly, Dave, but as Zoltan asked, can affiliates create better landing pages and explain the right deal and then send them to the registration form?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a great opportunity to really improve the experience you're giving to your users. So people are always very afraid of adding steps to a process, but what we have to remember is what we call qualifying changes. That maybe you'll lose a few people by adding maybe an extra step or an extra landing page. But if you can explain the deal there, if you can make it clear what's going to happen next, and if you can do the sales job there, that gives you a big benefit over just throwing them into a registration form. And as I mentioned earlier, if there's ways that you can frame that registration form, or at least make it clear to people that they're going to get whatever bonus, or that they're qualifying, or that they're getting the deal they signed up for on that registration form, then that's even better. But certainly, I recommend spend as much time building a rich experience for the user before you throw them into that registration form, because if you can make it worth their time to complete that, then you're going to do more sales.
Great advice. Thank you. Can you give any examples of casino portals that are doing well as far as creating, great landing pages rather than operators?
I don't have any examples to show here, but certainly, when I was doing a lot of research into this, I think it's the portals that are trying to really address the user's approach. And I think the problem is when you're offering a portal, it comes back to an issue like the calls to action, that you're giving the user a choice, and although choice is good, it's also good to guide the users. So there are many sort of traditional conversion and persuasion principles that you can use, such as things like showing what the most popular deals are, or showing which are limited time, or preferred partners, or favorite partners, and things like that, that almost reduce that choice to people. Because the problem is, if you're throwing people into maybe a portal that's offering 5, 10, 30 deals, and different operators, people are having to make a decision. And if you can guide them in that, sometimes fewer choices work a lot better than when you're offering people a lot of options, which is generally the default thing you want to do, because it's more opportunities to do a sale, but also you feel like you're informing the customer. Whereas in fact, a lot of customers really just want to be guided.
Thank you. The next question is from Jerome, who asks, do these optimization rules, are they just specific to gaming, or have you tested these on other surfaces like dating or Forex products?
Yeah, absolutely, and they work very well in all sorts of areas. Again, what we try to do is two things. One is to apply sort of classic marketing and traditional methods, but also to understand in each of the areas what it is that people don't work with, or don't understand. So when we used to work with a dating client, what we had to do was make sure that we're focusing on the end goal. Again, they can get very there's a lot of emphasis sometimes on registration, signing up, when really what you want to be selling is that end goal of going on a date and meeting the right person. So these same principles work in these industries and all others. You need to keep the absolute basics right, things like calls to action, selling benefits, not features, things like that. But also remember to bring, I suppose, the emotional side of it into it as well, and keep that excitement going. You don't want to go onto a dating site and fill out a huge complex form, and the same with things like Forex. But I guess also remember that your customers may not be familiar with the product offering and may need a bit more hand-holding as well. So it wasn't directly Forex trading, but we worked with a company where you could buy gold bullion. And that was very difficult, because we were trying to sell the whole concept of that to people, and it involved a very long landing page, but was very effective in getting people to put tens of thousands of dollars into this company and deposit a lot of money with them, because we were taking the time to educate them and really understand what the reasons are that they weren't converting. So I guess my message would be, apply these ideas, but also think and research to understand why it is your customers aren't converting, and then address those problems on your landing pages.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Gambling websites are often very busy and even cluttered at times. What happens if you emphasize too many elements on a web page?
Yeah, this can be a really big problem because, as you say, it gets very cluttered and can be a big problem. And one of the things to think about there is it's really sort of two principles. The first one is to think about how the eye looks at the page. So there are tools out there, things like iQuant, which do tools like eye tracking. So the idea is that they have done a lot of eye tracking studies, and they have a tool where you can put your page in, and it will show you which areas pop out at the user and which get the most attention. So looking at that and sort of looking at the traditional patterns that the eye will follow when it goes onto the page are really important, because you might find that although there's a lot of information there, the information that is most important is either getting lost because it's in the wrong place, or it might actually be a really complex page and the information is really clear just because of the way it's been formatted. So I think that's very important. You need to think about where the eye looks when they're on the page and make sure that the important information is clear. So the main headline, the main benefits, and obviously your call to action. But the other side of it as well is that you need to think about this issue of choice and what's known as the crisis of choice. And when people go onto a page, their mind can work in two ways. Either it can be a very instinctive thing, so you can go on, and if there's one big button, it's very clear to you what to do, and then your mind has just got to think, do I want to do this thing? So that's very straightforward. If you go onto a page with lots of options, like we were talking about with the calls to action, you're on there, and that makes the mind think, and that actually involves engaging the mind, and it takes a lot more time for it to work things out, and it's mentally quite a hard thing to do. And although it sounds silly, just choosing between two options can make a big difference for a user, and can cause a lot of them to maybe think again about what they were going to do. So although it initially might seem like a good idea to maybe offer your card games, your casino games, your sports book all on one page and put lots of information, lots of odds and bonuses, it's certainly worth trying stripping all that back and just pushing one thing to the user at a time. Maybe offer them modal windows and light boxes now and again to promote something rather than putting it on the page, so that you're only offering them one piece of information or a couple of pieces of information at a time. So I'd really suggest experiment with trying to cut back on your page and reducing the number of choices people have to make, because it can certainly be quite a problem for people to make those sort of decisions.
Great, thank you. So I've had a player convert on my landing page. So what do I do to keep them coming back time and time again? How often should I mix things up and test?
That's a very good question, because it's almost, it can be free money for you when if someone's going to keep returning, and you want to make sure that they convert, and it's a very challenging thing, especially if you're an affiliate where you aren't necessarily owning the relationship with the client, and that they've gone on to one of the operators, and they now have that relationship. So I think the sort of things that you need to look at is start off by looking at the data. So go into your analytics and find out how often are people coming back, and what do they do when they come back, and what are they looking for. So if you can put that sort of information in there, and also use things like Qualaroo, which are great little tools for asking people questions on your site. Ask them what they'd like to see there. You can set that up to only work for your repeat visitors. So ask them, what are you looking for? Why did you come here today? So those two pieces of information will first of all give you information as to how often you might need to change things, or what sort of repeat visitors you've got. But then this opportunity to know what really they're looking for, because there are general rules of thumb, but the best thing to do is to ask your users and to find out what they're really looking for. And when it comes to gathering repeat visitors, you can then start trying to take advantage of that, whether it's maybe giving them some sort of messaging based on their past past use, or a technique that we've been using with clients recently is to try and detect when they're leaving the site, when they start to move the mouse up to the top of the page, and to offer them some sort of special bonus or special offer, or a reason to stay. But I'd also recommend, if you can build up your own email base. It's a great way to keep people engaged if you can start sending out emails to them. But really try and do it in a way that benefits them. Think again, put yourself in the user's mindset and think, well, why should they keep returning to you, and why should they have a relationship with your site? And what benefits can you give them, maybe in return for them giving you their email address? And it's quite easy to do it through something like offer them a free download or a free bonus that they can only access by getting that by giving their email. And then you've got that opportunity and that extra marketing channel to start talking to them and to send them your own offers. So it's really about trying to engage with them and offer something valuable every time they come back.
Great, thank you. Is generally a special offer, like a bonus, etc., so effective? What is the special offer? Excuse me. What if the special offer appears later in the registration process? Have you tested this?
Not directly, but generally we recommend that you would give a special offer or a discount as early as possible, simply because later on in the process there isn't a lot to be gained from it. One option which we have done, referring back to this exit intent, as we call it, or trying to detect when the user's leaving the site. We have had quite a lot of success with doing special offers in that sense. So if they're if they're filling in their registration details and they look like they're going to leave, or even better, what traditionally in retail we abandoned carts emails, where you've entered your email address but you didn't finish the purchase process, you'll then get an email the next day asking you why not, and suggesting you complete it. So I think giving an offer late in the process is quite useful if you think there's a reason the user is leaving. Otherwise, I would get it to them as early as possible, and convince them to enter the funnel and to start the process of registration, and really take as much advantage of that as early as possible. But certainly, if you can find a way to capture those people who you think are going to leave, that's a great time to give them an offer, because it gives them a compelling reason to stay.
Great. You mentioned abandoned shopping carts. Someone had actually asked, of major sites like Amazon, etc., who, in your opinion, does a good job with their calls to action?
So out of the major sites, Amazon, yeah, I'm not an enormous fan of. They do some things very well. They do some things very badly as well. I'm trying to think of some really standout examples of calls to action specifically. I mean, when you're thinking about these things, I think when you're talking about calls to action, they can work very well if they're very clear. They can work very well if they stand out from the page. I'm afraid I can't think off the top of my head of a specific site, but looking at a lot of the big retailers who spend time doing testing, you can see that that works. And interestingly, Amazon is one where I don't think the calls to action are actually that strong, but they do a lot of testing and people are very familiar with their approach. Whereas some of the other large sites, I have some UK examples, things like John Lewis, for example, in the UK, one of the big department stores. They do very well with their calls to action, and they've tested that extensively. And it's about things that address the user. So using button text like checkout securely, and making sure that people are aware of what's happening. So no major examples I can think of call to action specifically, but it is worth looking at the John Lewis page in the UK, which is a nice example of a very high converting site.
Okay, thank you. So how does writing and web copy fit into all of these tips and mistakes that people might make? Should affiliates be as focused on that as their design and how things are laid out on a page?
Yeah, absolutely. I think copywriting is really one of the areas that on the web a lot of people forget it when it comes to conversion, and actually it's one of the areas that can give you the biggest gains. Things like the headlines can be very, very strong in doing tests on them. We've seen 10, 20, 30% increases just changing headline text alone. Um, so I definitely recommend spend a good amount of time copywriting. If you can afford to get a good copywriter, then I recommend trying it because they will write very good copy. But it's things you can do yourself, and again, I recommend going back and studying sort of almost traditional marketing materials. So things like John Caples, very famous for writing very, very effective headlines and using some of the techniques there. So again, thinking about what the user wants, the benefits, and one technique which can be very successful and is very easy for anyone to do is to go onto your site and think of one particular user and give that person a name. It could be Jane in London or something like that, and think about what she wants and try and get into her mind and think about what her issues are and why she's coming to your site and what she might be worried about. And then actually write a letter to her. Write your copy as Dear Jane, and set out exactly why she should choose to use your service and what the problem and how you would address the worries she's got about using it. And by writing that, you'll suddenly find that you start to get paragraphs and sentences and little pieces of copy, which when put together on the site, obviously you're not going to put your whole letter on there, but it starts to crystallize the key points that you want to get across to the users. So I strongly recommend sit down and write copy, and also when you're writing copy, make sure that it's familiar to your users. Don't write overly elaborate copy for users who aren't, say, looking for degrees or education. Use the sort of words that people would use in everyday life. And I strongly recommend whenever you write some copy, sit down and read it out loud, because it really gives you an impression of how it sounds. And usually you'll change it, because what you really want it to do is it to flow and it to sound like a friendly message. Don't make it sound like formal marketing text. Just make it sound like a friendly letter to someone you know. And that can be very, very effective copy, and it's definitely worth spending the time doing.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more question. So, what are some of the elements that will, without fail, drive players away that our audience should avoid at all cost?
Probably the biggest ones I think that would drive people away is it's really hitting the negative points that people worry about. So you've got these barriers to conversion, the reasons why people don't convert, and if you then fuel those, it's even worse. So things like trust is a big one. So if you appear non-trustworthy, if you don't appear to be offering what they're looking for, so going back again to things like the ad copy and the right images, and then thirdly, just making things appear complicated to them. I think those three areas are the really key ones, because if someone comes onto your site, they want to get the thing they're looking for, and if they think they're in the wrong place, they'll go away. They want to trust that they're going to get what they're asking for. So things like making sure you're reputable and making sure that things like bonuses are clear. And they don't want to be confused. And if you make any of those three big mistakes, it's really going to hit conversion, because really, you're hitting the reasons that people don't want to convert, and fueling those reasons and giving them sort of reason to go on to other sites and to try them instead.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. These were all really, really great questions and answers that you provided. So I think that includes our webinar today, everyone. Thank you so much, Dave, for being our speaker. You did an awesome job, and we are very excited to see you at LAC, where you will be speaking. What day are you speaking on?
On Friday, which is I think the 7th.
Great. So you can also check out Dave's presentation there, and I think he'll be available after the session to answer questions if we didn't get to them today. As always, the recorded version of this webinar will be available on the CAP website within the next week. Also, be sure to check out the CAP network when you're there to get the some of the top offers in iGaming. So thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your morning, day, or evening, wherever you are. Take care.